Ethan Cole, step outside right now. The voice ripped through the quiet morning like a siren. I wasn't even fully awake when I swung open my front door and saw her, Marcia Whitlock, the HOA president, marching across my lawn with a violation notice held high over her head like she had just caught me running a backyard crime ring. She was yelling so loudly the sound bounced off the houses on both sides of the street, and blinds began lifting as neighbors peeked through their windows. The cold wind slapped across my face, but the embarrassment burned hotter than anything the weather could throw at me. Marcia didn't stop walking until she was close enough to jab the paper into my chest. You think you can just change the structure of your home without permission? Not in my community. Not under my watch, she barked. Her eyes were sharp, filled with that same intoxicating mix of authority and paranoia she carried everywhere she went. I took the notice from her hand and stared at the bold red letters stamped across the top. Immediate fines for unauthorized renovations. Structural changes? Renovations? I hadn't changed a single thing on my property. My porch looked the same as it did the day I moved in. I stood there confused, replaying the last few days in my head, searching for anything that might remotely resemble what she was accusing me of. But nothing came up. Absolutely nothing. What renovations? I asked slowly, trying not to let her aggressive tone drag me into an argument I wasn't prepared for. Marcia, I haven't touched my house. She scoffed loudly. Don't lie to me, Ethan. I know exactly what I saw. And if you don't comply immediately, you'll be facing daily fines. I already reported this to the city. The cul-de-sac was silent except for her voice echoing through it. The notice trembled slightly in my hand, not because of the cold, but because of how absurd this was. I flipped through the pages, scanning for something, anything that explained what rule I supposedly broke. But the violation form didn't list a bylaw number, didn't reference a clause, didn't even include a description of the supposed structural change. A basic HOA requirement, and she hadn't filled it out. That told me two things. Either she was reckless, or she was hiding something. I stepped closer to her, keeping my voice steady. You didn't cite a clause. You know the bylaws require that. Her jaw twitched, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned sharply and started marching back across my yard, muttering something under her breath. The cold breeze rustled the loose papers in my hand as I watched her retreat, her steps quick, almost frantic. Something wasn't right. This wasn't her usual hunger for control. This was panic disguised as authority. I followed her with my eyes, trying to make sense of her behavior, when something caught my attention. Behind her house, past the wooden fence that lined the back of her property, I saw movement. A group of men unloading long wooden beams from a truck. Construction equipment. Stacks of cinder blocks. Tools scattered around like they'd been working non-stop. My breath hitched. Why would Marcia accuse me of unauthorized renovations when she had construction crews working behind her own fence? And more importantly, why did she seem desperate to keep everyone's eyes off that direction? The answers I knew were going to pull me into something far bigger than a bogus HOA violation. Don't take another step toward my house, Marcia yells before I even knock. Her voice is sharp, cutting through the air like broken glass. But what stops me cold is the tremor in it. She isn't angry, she's scared. And the moment I catch that fear in her eyes, I know this has nothing to do with my porch railing. Something else, something bigger is pushing her to lash out. I raise my hand slightly, not in surrender, but in an attempt to defuse whatever she thinks is about to happen. The morning sun is barely over the rooftops, yet the tension between us feels thick enough to choke on. The sharp smell of fresh-cut wood drifts from behind her fence, mixing with the metallic scent of cold air. Whatever she's building back there, she definitely doesn't want anyone looking too closely. Marcia, I say slowly, keeping my voice calm. I just want to understand what violation you think I committed. You accused me of structural renovations. I haven't done anything. Not one thing. Don't lie to me, she snaps instantly. I saw the changes myself. I know what I'm talking about. Don't think you can outsmart me, Ethan. Lie? The word hits harder than her yelling. I've never lied to her. Hell, I've barely spoken to her in the 3 years I've lived here. But she throws the accusation at me like she's been rehearsing it, gripping her arms so tightly across her chest her knuckles turn white. Then show me, I say firmly. Show me the pictures. Show me the bylaw I violated. Just show me anything. Because the notice you taped to my door didn't cite a single clause. Her eyes dart. Barely, but enough for me to see it. That flicker of panic. She looks over her shoulder toward the backyard, toward the smell of sawdust and the muffled clanking of tools, and for a split second, she looks like a cornered animal, desperate to keep something hidden. I don't have to show you anything, she fires back, voice rising in pitch. You want to play stubborn? Fine. I'll issue daily fines, mandatory hearings, and believe me, the board will side with me. They always do. There it is. The threat. The hammer she loves to swing, but now I see something underneath it. Desperation. Marcia, I say. What's really going on? Why are you acting like this? What are you afraid of? She flinches. Actually flinches. The defensive mask slips for half a breath, and underneath it, I see raw fear. Then, like a switch being flipped, she forces her expression stone hard again. Get off my property, she says. Now. The defeat in her tone is buried deep, but it's there. She's not worried about my porch. She's worried someone will look past it. I take a slow step back, watching her eyes shift again toward the backyard. It's almost involuntary, the way she keeps glancing, like she's waiting for something or someone to give her away. The smell of sawdust grows stronger with the next gust of wind, carrying the unmistakable thud of a hammer striking wood. Something is happening back there. Something she does not want exposed. I'm about to say something else. Anything to push her cracks wider when a voice suddenly speaks behind me. Sir, the man says, clipboard in hand, city logo on his jacket. We need to talk about your renovation. I turn around slowly, confusion crashing into me like a punch. Renovation? Marcia reported me to the city too? And just like that, everything shifts again. Where's the illegal structure? The inspector demands. For a moment, I honestly think he's joking. I blink at him, stunned, trying to process what he just said. An illegal structure? Me? Before I can even respond, he glances down at his clipboard, flipping through papers like he's preparing for a demolition order. I finally manage to speak. I don't have any structure. I don't even have a shed. He looks up sharply. Your HOA president reported that you built an unapproved addition. A full structure. So where is it? Each word hits harder than the last. Marcia didn't just exaggerate. She outright lied. She didn't accuse me of repainting a railing. She told the city I constructed an entire building. My mouth goes dry. Sir, I say, motioning toward my porch, you're welcome to inspect my property. There's nothing here. I haven't changed anything. He steps past me and starts looking around. His confusion grows with every glance. No extra beams, no footprints of construction, not even a disturbed patch of soil. I watch his eyebrows slowly pull together as he studies the porch railing, which is exactly as it's been for years. This doesn't make sense, he mutters. Your HOA made it sound like you built a second-story extension. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. I told her I didn't renovate anything. She never cited a bylaw. She never showed proof. Inspector Dan Ramirez straightens up, eyes narrowing with something that isn't suspicion anymore. It's curiosity, the kind that says he's seen this sort of thing before. Sometimes, he says slowly, HOAs file complaints like this when they don't want attention on something else. Happens more often than you'd think. His meaning is clear. Someone's deflecting. Someone's hiding. Someone's panicking. And I know exactly who. I glance toward Marcia's house. Instinctively, Dan notices. You think she's lying about something? He asks, folding his arms. I think she's terrified of me looking too closely, I answer honestly. She keeps glancing toward her backyard like something's back there. Dan flips his clipboard shut. Then you should request a written copy of the complaint she filed. Legally, you're allowed to see exactly what she said. That gets my attention. I can get a copy? Absolutely. It's your right. And trust me, document everything. Dates, times, photos. If this turns into a dispute, you're going to need proof. I nod, the weight of his words settling heavily on me. My stomach twists with a mix of anger and something else. Unease. Because if Marcia went so far as to lie to the city, she's desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. Dan walks the perimeter of my yard one more time, shaking his head as if trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. Nothing here, he concludes. Not even close to a violation. I'll file the inspection as clear, but you should keep your guard up. Something's off. He starts writing notes, but he's interrupted by a sound, a loud, deep thud that echoes across the neighborhood. Then another, and another. We both turn. That hammering isn't normal home improvement noise. It's heavy, industrial, coming directly from behind Marcia's fence. Dan looks at me, eyes narrowing. What the hell is she building back there? And for the first time, I see concern in his face. Not for me, but for what he might be forced to uncover. You see that? A neighbor whispers. She's building something huge back there. Those words sink into me like ice. I follow his gaze toward the slope behind the cul-de-sac, a spot none of us usually pay attention to. For a moment, I debate whether I'm overreacting, but the pounding behind Marcia's fence hasn't stopped all morning. Something is happening, and the tension in the neighborhood feels wrong, like everyone's waiting for a storm to hit. I walk toward the slope, every step heavier than the last. The wind picks up dirt and carries the smell of diesel across the hillside. When I reach the top and finally look over the ridge, my stomach drops so fast I almost lose my balance. She isn't building a shed. She isn't fixing a fence. She isn't adding a small structure. A massive, unapproved building is rising behind Marcia's house. Wooden framing stretching taller than her roofline, concrete blocks lined in perfect stacks, and work lights strung across the area like a construction site preparing for a night shift. The noise I've been hearing all morning comes to life in front of me. Metal tools clanging, drills buzzing, workers shouting instructions over the roar of machinery. It looks like a rental suite, or an office, or something intended to generate money, but definitely not something approved by the HOA, and definitely not something she wants anyone to know about. I pull out my phone with trembling hands and start taking photos. Not to expose her, not yet, but to protect myself. Someone who's bold enough to fabricate violations against me is bold enough to twist any story she needs to. Evidence might be the only thing that saves me later. As I'm taking pictures, I hear footsteps crunch across the gravel. I turn and see Tom Hudson walking up the slope, hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets, nervous eyes darting toward Marcia's property. I've been meaning to tell someone, he says quietly. She's had workers here every night this week. Midnight, 1 in the morning, loud crashes, cutting metal, trucks backing in and out. My wife couldn't sleep. When I asked her what she was doing, she told me to mind my own business. I stare at him, the truth clicking together piece by piece. She accused me of renovations to cover this. I say, she's trying to keep all the attention off her backyard. Tom nods slowly. Sounds like her. She's been acting intense lately. More than usual. The diesel fumes push harder on the air, almost suffocating. Floodlights flicker as welders work on steel joints. These aren't casual workers. This isn't casual construction. This is a full-scale project happening right under the HOA's nose, and she's banking on everyone being too scared or too distracted to notice. Standing there, watching the chaos unfold, I feel something shift inside me. This isn't a misunderstanding or a small power play. This is deliberate. She reported me because she needed a scapegoat. She needed someone else to take the heat while she built something illegal on land that clearly wasn't zoned for it. And if she's willing to lie to the city, She's willing to do a lot worse. I take one final photo, zooming in on the structural frame, when a shadow suddenly stretches across the dirt behind me. A cold voice cuts through the air like a blade. "Keep poking around," Marcia snarls from just a few feet away, "and I'll destroy you." I open the HOA records room, and half the files I need are missing. Not misplaced. Removed. That's when the truth hits me like a punch to the chest. Marcia isn't just hiding a building. She's hiding a trail. A big one. The HOA keeps all its past approvals and architectural requests in a cramped storage room inside the old community center. It smells like dust layered over more dust. The kind of place no one visits unless they absolutely need to. The fluorescent light above me flickers weakly, making the shadows stretch across the floor like long fingers. I walk to the cabinets labeled Architectural Requests and pull open the drawer, already knowing I won't like what I find. There should be hundreds of documents. Every homeowner's request for fences, patios, sheds, paint changes. But the folders look thinner than they should. And when I reach the section marked W, my suspicion becomes reality. There are no files for Whitlock. Not one. Months and months of blank space where her paperwork should be. I flip through again, as if maybe I'm imagining it. But my stomach sinks deeper with every empty folder. For a woman who loves enforcing rules, she's kept none of her own. I whisper under my breath. She didn't file anything. The realization is heavy. She didn't file a request for the construction. She didn't submit blueprints. She didn't ask for approval from the board she claims to lead with iron order. She broke the exact rules she tries to punish everyone else for. I pull the drawer out further, reaching for older records. Something else catches my attention. An old binder stuffed with neighborhood plat maps. I know enough about property boundaries to understand that these maps show the official layout of the land, including every lot line. I open the binder on the table and run my fingers across the pages. The plat maps are dated, some more than 20 years old, but when I find the one for our street, my pulse jumps. The fence line behind Marcia's house does not match the boundaries shown on the map. The property ends earlier, by several feet. The back section where she's building that massive structure is shaded differently, marked with small lettering indicating public easement. My heart beats faster. I lean closer. That land isn't private. It isn't residential. And it definitely doesn't belong to her. The more I compare, the more obvious it becomes. Marcia extended her fence beyond her lot line. Whether by accident or design, she claimed land that wasn't hers. But the plat maps don't lie. These documents are legally binding records, stored at the county level and protected from alteration. A legal nugget flashes through my mind. Plat maps are public records and cannot be changed or redrawn without city approval. No HOA president, no matter how powerful she thinks she is, can alter them. Which means the truth has always been sitting here, waiting for someone to look. And the missing files? She didn't lose them. She removed them. She cleared her tracks. My throat tightens with a mixture of anger and disbelief. This isn't just about HOA harassment. This is something bigger, maybe even criminal. She weaponized the HOA to cover an illegal expansion onto land that doesn't belong to her. She reported me because she needed someone, anyone, else to draw attention. I flip the map again, tracing the line with shaking fingers. Then it hits me like a cold wave. She's building on land that's not even part of her property. "Sir, this isn't residential land." Those 6 words hit harder than anything Marcia has thrown at me. The zoning officer's voice is steady, but the moment he zooms the digital map out on his monitor, my jaw drops. The boundaries shift, the colors change, and suddenly I'm staring at a layout that rewrites everything I thought I knew about our neighborhood. Marcia's backyard, the place where she's been building that massive structure, doesn't appear under her parcel number. It doesn't belong to her. It doesn't belong to the HOA. It doesn't belong to any private homeowner. It belongs to the city. I lean closer to the monitor, running my eyes over the shaded area marked Greenbelt Preserve. Restricted use. The word restricted flickers like it's mocking me. This can't be right. I whisper. The zoning officer, a middle-aged man named Carter Hayes, swivels in his chair and folds his arms. I'm afraid it is. That section behind your HOA has been public greenbelt land for decades. Protected. Can't be developed. Can't be built on. It's illegal to modify it. A cold pressure forms in my chest as the full picture sharpens. She extended her fence over it. I say quietly. Claimed it as her own. And she's building a structure on it, he adds. A pretty large one, from what you described. I nod. Bigger than anything allowed under HOA rules. Bigger than anything she could hide forever. Carter exhales, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose. I've seen this before. When a homeowner wants extra land, they sometimes try to borrow public space. Usually it's small, like a shed or a garden. But what you're describing, this is serious. And if she altered HOA documents to make it look like she had approval, he stops, then adds, that crosses into potential fraud. My pulse thuds in my ears. Fraud. This isn't petty HOA drama anymore. This is an offense the city can and will pursue. What kind of penalties are we talking about? I ask. Carter pulls up another screen. Demolition of the structure. Heavy fines. In some cases, criminal charges if documents were falsified or if the construction was intentionally concealed. Everything clicks into place like a trap snapping shut. Marcia didn't just accuse me of unauthorized renovations. She weaponized the city against me. She needed the inspector focused on my house, not hers, so that her construction site could stay off the radar. I feel my jaw tighten as anger replaces confusion. She went to extreme lengths to keep attention away from her backyard, and the moment I got too close, she lashed out blindly, hoping to scare me into retreating. Carter studies me for a moment. You said she filed a complaint against you. You're entitled to request a written copy from us and from your HOA. He lowers his voice slightly. If she lied in those documents, that will only make things worse for her. I nod and thank him, gathering my notes. As I walk out of City Hall, the sunlight feels different. Hotter, sharper. Like the whole world is waiting to see what happens next. My mind races with everything Carter confirmed. Marcia thought she was untouchable. Untouchable enough to steal land, fake records, and blame me. But now the truth is out, and the city knows. Just as I reach my truck, my phone buzzes in my pocket. I glance down. A text message. Marcia's at your house again. She looks furious. The chill that runs through me is instant. I arrive home to find Marcia pacing in my driveway, shouting into her phone, "I'll teach him a lesson." Her voice cracks with fury, loud enough for half the neighborhood to hear. She doesn't even notice my truck pulling in until I step out and face her. That's when she snaps her head toward me, eyes wild and red-rimmed like she hasn't slept in days. Then I see them. 3 violation notices taped crookedly across my front door. Bright red print, sloppy handwriting. It looks like she slapped them up in a frenzy. It's open warfare now. I walk toward the door, tearing the papers down one by one. The first violation? Trash bin placement. The second? Mailbox color not matching approved pallet. The third? Lawn edging not uniform. It's ridiculous. Every single one is fabricated. My trash bins were behind the fence, my mailbox is HOA standard, and my lawn was edged yesterday. Marcia storms closer, practically foaming with anger. "You want to play games, Ethan?" She spits. "You think you can challenge me? I'll bury you in fines before this week is over." I take a breath, steadying myself. "Marcia, you filed false complaints with the city. You're building illegally on land that doesn't even belong to you. You should be worried about what they're going to do, not me." Her face twists with something between panic and rage. "You don't know what you're talking about." She snaps, but the tremble in her voice betrays her. She's unraveling, losing control of the narrative she fought so hard to maintain. We're not alone. Neighbors gather across the street, whispering behind hands. I catch snippets. "She did the same thing to us. She's been going after anyone who questions her. This has been happening for months. The realization chills me. I'm not her first victim, just the one who pushed back, hard enough to expose her. I pull out my phone and start recording calmly, documenting her behavior, the notices, the time, the date. She tries to block the camera with her hand, but I sidestep her easily. "You can record all you want," she snarls. "I know the rules. I'm the president here." "Then you should know," I say evenly, "that HOAs are required to provide photographic proof for every violation they issue. You don't have any, because none of these violations are real." For a second, just one, she falters. A flash of fear crosses her face. She knows I'm right. She knows every fake violation she slaps on my door without evidence is another nail in her coffin. Neighbors watch the confrontation like they're witnessing the fall of a tyrant. I turn slightly toward the invisible audience watching this video, and the thought crosses my mind. What would you do if your HOA president targeted you like this? Would you keep quiet, or would you fight back? Marcia suddenly steps away, pulling out her phone again, barking orders at someone on the other end. I can hear the desperation bleeding through her tone. She's cornered, and she knows it. I ignore her ranting and head inside, tossing the bogus notices on my kitchen table. My hands shake as I grab a pen and begin writing down everything that happened. Dates, times, witnesses. If she wants war, I'll defend myself the right way, with evidence she can't twist or erase. I'm halfway through documenting the incident when a heavy knock rattles my front door. Not the frantic knocking of an angry HOA president, but the precise, official kind. I open the door and freeze. A delivery driver hands me a certified envelope. The label reads, "Mandatory HOA disciplinary hearing." "Sit down, Ethan," Marcia snaps as I enter. "This won't take long." Her voice slices through the stale, fluorescent-lit room like a blade. The conference table is already packed with board members, but not one of them looks at me. Their eyes stay glued to their papers, their phones, the floor, anywhere but my face. The ambush is obvious. This isn't a hearing. It's an execution they planned behind closed doors. I pull out a chair and sit slowly, scanning the room. The tension feels thick enough to choke on. Marcia sits at the head of the table, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched so tight I can see the muscle twitching. She flips through a thick stack of papers dramatically, as if she's preparing to read out a criminal indictment. For the record, she begins, projecting her voice like she's in a courtroom. "We are here to discuss multiple violations committed by homeowner Ethan Cole." I fold my hands, waiting. She lifts the first page. "Improper trash bin placement." I say nothing. "Mailbox color non-compliance." Still, silence. "Failure to maintain lawn edging to community standards." She slaps the papers down and leans forward. "These are serious violations." I finally speak. "And do you have photographic proof for any of them?" My tone is calm, deliberately calm. A few board members shift nervously. Marcia's eyes narrow. "We don't need—" "Yes." I cut in quietly, but firmly. "You do. HOA regulations state every violation must be documented with time-stamped photo evidence. So go ahead. Show them." For the first time, she hesitates. Her fingers twitch around the papers. A flicker of panic crosses her face, and she quickly masks it with anger. "We don't have the photos with us today," she snaps. I pull out my folder and place it on the table. Good thing I brought mine. Every head at the table finally rises. I spread out my photos, each one taken the same day she issued her fake violations. My trash bins tucked neatly behind the gate. My mailbox painted in regulation-approved color. My freshly edged lawn. Every picture is date-stamped. "You fabricated these violations," I say plainly. "All of them." Marcia stands abruptly. "This is ridiculous. These pictures prove nothing." A board member clears his throat but still won't meet my eyes. Another shifts as if uncomfortable. The room is cracking around her. the facade breaking piece by piece. Then, something unexpected happens. The board secretary, a quiet, older man named Howard, slides a folded note toward me under the table. His hand shakes. I open it discreetly, ask her about her permits. My pulse spikes. Slowly, deliberately, I rise from my chair. Marcia, I say loudly enough for every person in the room to hear, where are your building permits for the construction behind your property? Her entire body flinches. Her lips part as if the air has been punched out of her. A thick silence falls over the room. Even the humming of the fluorescent lights seems to fade. I don't have to answer that, she stammers, voice cracking. You do, I reply, because that structure is on city greenbelt land. And the city is already investigating. Gasps ripple across the table. A few board members finally turn to stare directly at her. Eyes wide with shock and betrayal. Marcia's face drains of color. She fumbles with her papers, drops half of them, then stands so abruptly her chair slams backward into the wall. This meeting is over, she screams. And before anyone can protest, she storms out, visibly shaken, almost stumbling as she shoves the door open and disappears into the hallway. Marcia, open the door. The shouting echoes down the street the next morning as I step outside. 3 HOA board members stand on Marcia's front porch, pounding on her door with a mixture of anger and disbelief written all over their faces. Their voices overlap. Sharp, panicked, desperate. They've finally realized something's wrong, and I'm holding the evidence they need. I walk toward them slowly, the folder tucked under my arm heavier than ever. The early sunlight cuts across the houses in sharp angles, casting long shadows that seem to stretch out from Marcia's front door like warnings. The air feels charged, as if the entire neighborhood is bracing for impact. One of the board members, Janet, turns when she hears my footsteps. Her eyes are red-rimmed, exhausted, like she hasn't slept since the hearing. Ethan, she says quietly, we need to talk to you. Now. I nod and gesture toward the sidewalk. Let's step away from her door. We move a few feet back as another board member continues knocking. Through the windows, the curtains remain closed. Her house is silent. Too silent. I open the folder and pull out the city map Carter showed me at City Hall. Highlighted boundaries, official zoning codes, and the plot clearly marked as protected greenbelt land. I spread it across the hood of one of their cars. This, I say, pointing to the shaded area behind Marcia's fence, is where she's building. Janet leans over the map, her mouth falling open. This isn't her property. This isn't even HOA land. This is city-owned. I told her yesterday we needed the permits. Howard mutters from behind his glasses. He looks guilt-ridden. She said everything was approved. It wasn't, I reply. She never submitted a single request. She removed all her architectural files from the HOA archives. The only reason we know the truth is because she couldn't erase the city plat maps. Another board member, Gerald, steps forward, rubbing his temple like he's trying to process too much at once. So she lied. Over and over. She weaponized this board. She went after you to hide what she was doing. I nod. She needed to keep inspectors away from her property. Reporting me bought her time. The weight of that truth settles over all of them. Panic spreads. Silent, heavy. Some of them clearly suspected something small. Others knew nothing at all. And for the first time, I see the cracks in their loyalty to her. Their confidence in their president is gone, replaced by betrayal and the fear of legal consequences. Janet folds her arms tightly. If the city finds out the HOA ignored this, they'll hold us accountable too. They won't, I say calmly, because you're acting now, and you're going to cooperate. The power shift is obvious. These people aren't following Marcia anymore. They're following the law and their own survival instincts. For the first time since I moved here, the board actually looks united. Not under Marcia's control, but against it. Suddenly the rumble of engines breaks the silence. We all turn. 2 city trucks, followed by a white SUV with a zoning decal, pull onto the street. Workers step out in their reflective vests, carrying rolls of bright orange tape and metal stakes. "What are they doing here?" Gerald whispers. "I already know." The lead officer walks straight toward Marcia's side yard, eyes narrowed, clipboard in hand. Without hesitation, he orders, "Tape off the construction zone." Yellow tape stretches across her fence line. Another strip goes around the side yard. They're sealing her entire illegal structure like it's a crime scene. And as the first stake hits the ground, I realize this is just the beginning of her unraveling. "Mr. Cole, this is no longer a neighborhood dispute," an officer says. "It may be criminal." My heart pounds so hard it feels like it's echoing through my chest. I stand at the edge of Marcia's taped-off construction zone as city officials move in and out with clipboards, cameras, and measuring equipment. It's surreal watching professionals swarm around the backyard she once bragged about like a badge of honor. Now, it's a crime scene. The lead investigator, Officer Grant, motions for me to follow him to the sidewalk where the noise is less overwhelming. His expression is serious, heavy with the weight of what they've already uncovered and what they expect to still find. "We've reviewed the initial documents submitted to the city," he explains. "Some of the plats filed under your HOA's reference number don't match the original plats on record. They've been altered." My stomach tightens. "Altered how?" Grant flips open a folder and shows me two versions of the same neighborhood plat. One is the original, the one I found in the HOA records room. The other has different boundary lines. Lines that conveniently push Marcia's backyard several feet deeper, right into the greenbelt area she's been building on. "Someone tried to redraw property lines," Grant says, "and they forged at least one signature from a former HOA architect who moved out years ago." A cold, crawling sensation spreads down my spine. This isn't just rule breaking. This isn't even just illegal construction. This is calculated manipulation, criminal fraud. Altering property documents isn't a slap-on-the-wrist offense. It's a felony in most jurisdictions. People go to jail for this. The realization settles like a heavy stone in my chest. The HOA board hovers nearby, huddled in their own quiet panic. They look like people suddenly realizing they've been sitting on top of a landmine. None of them try to defend her anymore. They're pale, shaken, desperate to distance themselves from her as quickly as possible. Janet approaches me cautiously. "Ethan, we didn't know? We truly didn't know." I nod slowly. "I believe you, but someone removed files from the records room. Someone helped her, or at least allowed her access." Her expression collapses. "If she did this under our watch, you cooperated," I remind her gently. "That's what matters now." Officer Grant clears his throat, redirecting my attention. "We'll need copies of everything you've collected. Photos, notes, the timestamps, everything you've documented." I open my folder and hand over the file I've been building since the first violation notice. Every photo, every date, every suspicious detail. It feels strange passing it over, like handing someone the physical weight of weeks of fear and frustration. Grant scans through the first few pages, nodding with approval. "This is thorough," he says. "It helps us establish her intent and timeline. You did the right thing documenting everything. A lot of homeowners don't." The noise of construction tools being seized interrupts us briefly. Workers haul away saws, power drills, and stacks of lumber. Evidence now. The structure behind her fence is half taken apart already. Watching it come undone piece by piece feels like justice slowly unfolding in real time. Grant closes the folder and looks up at me with the kind of seriousness that sends a fresh jolt of adrenaline coursing through me. "Mr. Cole," he says, "we'll need you to testify soon." The words hit like a final turning point. Everything that's happened, every accusation, every lie, every threat has led to this moment. This isn't just Marcia's downfall anymore. It's a legal case, and I'm about to become the key witness. The sound of demolition echoes across the neighborhood. It's sharp, violent, and unmistakable. The kind of sound that draws people out of their homes, curiosity pulling them toward the source. I step onto my porch and look toward Marcia's backyard, where a crew of city workers is hacking through the illegal structure one beam at a time. Yellow caution tape flaps in the wind. Metal groans as the frame collapses, and bursts of dust rise into the air like pale smoke. City workers are tearing down Marcia's illegal structure, and she can't stop it. I stand there in silence, hands in my pockets, watching her empire crumble piece by piece. The same empire she used to intimidate people. The empire she weaponized against every neighbor who dared question her. For the first time since I moved into this community, I feel something unfamiliar. Relief. Not the gentle kind. The deep, exhaling kind that comes only when something poisonous is finally being removed. The workers move with practiced efficiency, cutting apart the exterior walls, pulling down studs, rolling up electrical bundles that had clearly been installed without permits. Everything about the construction screams secrecy. No proper foundation, no approved wiring, no inspections. And now, under the bright scrutiny of the city, it's all being exposed. Behind me, a few neighbors gather on the sidewalk. Some watch silently, others whisper, but every single face shows the same expression: quiet satisfaction, years of intimidation, ending in one morning. Mrs. Langley from across the street folds her arms and shakes her head. She bullied everyone. Fines, threats, notices. I can't believe this is finally happening. Another neighbor nods. She made my wife cry over a lawn ornament. A lawn ornament. Their voices blend into the soundtrack of demolition. For once, the HOA president's voice isn't the loudest in the neighborhood. In fact, she's nowhere to be seen. Not yet. A board member approaches me, relief softening her features. "Ethan, I need to say something on behalf of all of us," she begins. "We're sorry. We had no idea how far she had gone. We reversed the violations she issued against you. They've all been removed from your record." I nod, trying to decide how I feel. On one hand, it's vindicating. On the other, it took a criminal investigation to make any of them open their eyes. Still, I appreciate the gesture. "Thank you," I say. "Just make sure this never happens again, to anyone." "We will," she promises. "Trust me, no one here will ever give that kind of power to one person again." I look past her at the half-destroyed structure, the broken beams, the exposed insulation fluttering like shredded fabric. It's incredible how something built in secrecy can fall apart so fast in the open. The city demolition crew works with quiet focus, and I can't help but stare as they bring down the last standing section. A large framed window that once looked out over land she didn't even own. As it crashes to the ground, something in me settles. Later that afternoon, Officer Grant returns to my doorstep with an update. "Marcia Whitlock has been issued several citations," he says. "Unauthorized construction on public land, falsifying HOA plats, forging a signature, and failure to comply with zoning requirements. Fines will be heavy, and depending on the prosecutor, some charges may escalate." "Immediate removal from her position?" I ask. He nods once. "Effective today." It's surreal. The woman who strutted through the neighborhood like a self-appointed monarch is now stripped of the crown she clung to so tightly. And while part of me feels vindicated, another part feels something else. Something I can't quite name. Maybe it's the understanding that no matter how much noise she made, she was hiding a level of desperation none of us saw. As the afternoon light begins to fade and the workers finish loading debris into trucks, I'm approached by Tom Hudson. "You know what she was planning, right?" he asks quietly. I shake my head. "No." "She was going to rent it," he says. "A private office space, maybe more. She told one of the workers she'd be making enough money to never depend on the useless HOA board again. She planned to profit off city land." I absorb his words slowly. Of course she was. It was never about rules, never about order, always about power, and what she could gain from it. Tom pats my shoulder and walks off, leaving me alone in the fading orange glow of evening. The caution tape flutters. The last of the debris is hauled away. The once secret structure is gone, erased as if it never existed. I turn to go back inside, ready to finally breathe, when I hear soft footsteps behind me. Not hurried, not aggressive, slow, hesitant. I stop and turn around. Marcia stands near the edge of my driveway, shoulders hunched, eyes glossy with something I've never seen in her before. Fear and desperation. Her voice trembles as she speaks. I need your help. Please, just tell them I misunderstood. Marcia begs. Her voice is barely more than a whisper, trembling in the cool evening air. It's the first time I've ever seen her scared, truly scared. The woman who once barked orders across the street now stands hunched, small, almost fragile. But her eyes still flicker with that old desperation, clinging to the last scraps of authority slipping through her fingers. For a moment, I simply study her. The same person who threatened me, harassed me, lied about me, now stands on my driveway asking me to help her escape consequences she brought on herself. But I'm done being bullied. Marcia, I say quietly, I'm not going to lie for you. You didn't misunderstand anything. You did all of this intentionally. Her breaths turn shallow. She looks over her shoulder as if expecting someone to appear and rescue her from the reality she created. If you just tell the board I misread the maps. If you just say you weren't sure, maybe they'll reconsider the vote. The vote already happened, I reply. You're out, permanently. Her legs wobble slightly and she grips the side of my fence as though the news physically struck her. It sinks in, she no longer controls the HOA. No more power trips, no more threats. No more fear cast over every homeowner on the block. A few hours earlier, the board had met in an emergency session. This time, with the truth on the table, they didn't hide behind her shadow. They voted unanimously to remove her. Some were angry, some embarrassed, but all of them finally understood the damage she caused. And now, as if the universe wanted to make the message even clearer, Officer Grant appeared at my door shortly after. He handed me an update. The city was officially moving forward with legal action. Falsified plats, forged signatures, illegal construction on public land. Multiple charges were on the table. Cooperate fully when the court contacts you, he'd told me. People like her only get away with things when the victims stay quiet. Those words linger now as I face her on the driveway. I didn't want this, she whispers. I was just trying to build something for myself. You built it on land that wasn't yours, I say. And you tried to destroy anyone who got close to exposing you. That's not ambition. That's abuse. Her face tightens, but she doesn't argue. For the first time, she has no words left to twist, no power left to wield. She turns away slowly, shoulders drooping, and walks down the sidewalk without another word. The heavy silence she leaves behind feels like a chapter closing. I stand there for a long moment, letting the quiet settle. Then I breathe, deep and full. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I'm not waiting for another violation notice. I'm not bracing for another confrontation. I'm simply free. This whole ordeal taught me something important. Always verify property lines. Always read your bylaws. Always document every interaction, every notice, every word. Power can corrupt quickly when no one questions it, and silence becomes the soil where abuse grows. If you've ever dealt with a power-drunk HOA or an official who thought they were untouchable, ask yourself, would you have fought back? Or would you have stayed quiet? Because speaking up saved my home. And maybe my neighbors too. Just as I step inside, a soft thud hits my doorstep. I open the door to find a small plain envelope with no return address. Inside is a photo. Another forged HOA document. And the handwriting doesn't belong to Marcia. There's someone else behind all this. The story isn't over.